So, and so recording is in progress, in fact. Oakville, as we know it today, is rich in its history and modern traditions of many First Nations, Inuit and Métis. From the lands of the Anishinaabe, the Attawandaron, the Haudenosaunee, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in First Nations history. The town of Oakville is located on Treaty 14 and Treaty 22 lands of the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the treaty holders, for being stewards of this traditional territory. This is the acknowledgement that I have read. In terms of when I reflect upon the land that I'm on, I found this really fascinating experience of mine in recent days where I am, starting to take more walks outside in nature and starting to explore our park lands a little bit more. And I don't know what it is, and I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but when I step onto like grass or just something in nature, there's this connection where like I'm grounded to the ground, but my eyes can't help but look up at the skies and the stars. And I don't know like if that's just me or if everybody else has had a similar experience. But I started looking up at the stars as I feel really grounded to the ground. And I often find perspective in being connected to the land, being awe of everything that is around us in terms of creation. And I started looking up at the stars, which is and now you can see Jupiter from the naked eye, and you can see Mars from the naked eye. And I just got this perspective of like when you're grounded to something, grounded to earth, the world, the universe, comes into view, comes into perspective. And I found that to be so beautiful and so humbling as to, finding purpose and honoring the land that we're in by truly understanding how big and everything that creation encompasses, and how I, as just a person, can honor the land by just walking, by gaining perspective, by just going outside for a walk. We all have parks near our house. And so I found that really, really interesting. It was just a perspective sharing that I wanted to share, in that the more grounded you are to the land, the more perspective you have about the universe, which is so interesting for me. So that was my acknowledgement of the land, and I hope to honor the land by doing more walks and by being stewards of this, taking care of the land that was here way before I was, and to continue to get perspective and learn perspective. And so with that, I'm just going to pass it over to Tanya. But actually, oh no, Tanya's going to talk about the crosswalk. So Tanya, take it away.
Are you sure? You don't?
No.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Thanks, Nabil. My name is Tanya Doricio, and I am the supervisor of culture programs at the town of Oakville, and very happy to be here today with Grandmother's Voice with Jody. And Jody is going to introduce our special guest today. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk about the Orange Crosswalk. So this is at the intersection of Thomas and Church Street in downtown Oakville. And it's an orange crosswalk that was made in honor and remembrance of the Indigenous children who never returned home to their families, as well as survivors, families, and communities affected by the residential school system across Canada. This is a visual reminder of the important truth and reconciliation work that needs and must continue in our community. The conversations we have here today encourages critical discussions about historical and contemporary issues facing Indigenous peoples. So before we, next week, Nabil, maybe you would like to just mention, sorry, not next week, Wednesday, December the 14th, we are moving this program to an in-person program. Maybe Nabil, you could just refresh that. And I did put the wrong time on there. So if you could update us on the new information, thank you.
Yes. I know I love meeting people virtually, seeing some of the dark screens. It's fantastic. But I think what I really prefer would be an in-person engagement, to put a face to the wonderful names that we see here on our participant list. And so December 14th, we are going to be meeting in person. It's actually going to be at 1 o'clock. At 1 p.m. and Jody will share a little bit more detail about sort of the framework. So I don't want to give kind of what we're doing away because Jody came up with the idea, and I think it's fantastic. But essentially, we're going to be meeting at the Oakville Museum. There's a coach house that's attached to the Oakville Museum. I'll be sharing the address. It would be wonderful if you're able to, and you live close by to the GTA or close to Oakville, that you would come out, because there's going to be some special guest speakers. We're going to have some refreshments, and it's going to be at 1 o'clock. So it's going to be from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And so if you're available in that time, please come by. And if you're at work, if this is something you're doing from work, consider it a work meeting, guys, and make it out to your work meeting, and you're going to have a fantastic experience, both socially connecting with your peers, but at the same time reflecting and learning from our elders and grandmothers. And so that's December the 14th at 1 p.m. More details will be to follow. I'll send an email and I'll send a sign-up sheet. And I'm really hoping that we get a good turnout. We have over 58 people who are registered for this program. And so we would love to see, if you're able, a good number of those in our in-person session. So just wanted to share that. And Tanya, you can take it away.
Okay. So before we get started, I just wanted to review our participation speakers. If we could flip to the next slide, Nabil, that would be great. So please use the chat box to communicate, and Nabil and I or Jody will respond as best we can. If you would like to ask a question, look for the hand up feature in the chat box. You can privately message either of us to submit any questions or inquiries without interruption. And unless otherwise instructed, please keep yourself on mute. Respect one another and their perspectives. And as Nabil had mentioned, in case you just came on board, this program is being recorded. And this program, as well as the previous 3 programs, are available on the Town of Oakville's YouTube channel. And it is called Planting Our Seeds, and you will see them all there in sequence. So if you do want to go back and listen to what we've talked about, or share it with friends and family, or if there's a week you missed, please go back. The videos will be on the YouTube channel for a very long time. So we just want to have agreements in this session. One is to stay engaged, which means remaining morally, emotionally, intellectually, and socially involved in the dialogue. Experience discomfort. So this norm acknowledges that discomfort is inevitable, especially in dialogue about race, and that participants make a commitment to bring issues into the open. Thirdly, speak your truth. This means being open about thoughts and feelings and not just saying what you think others want to hear. Expect and accept non-closure. This agreement asks participants to hang out in uncertainty and not rush to quick solutions, especially in relation to racial understanding, which requires ongoing dialogue. And if you need contact, here are some crisis numbers that are available to you. You can also message Nabil and I, and we will also forward these to you. And one more slide. We would like to thank Grandmother's Voice for the partnership in this series, and also our funder, so Hamilton Halton Grant Tourism Ontario. So with that, I will pass it on to Jody Harbour to tell us what we're talking about today. Welcome, Jody.
Hey, good morning, Scano. I'm just getting over a bit of a cold, so excuse me for my interruptions if I have to exit to cough a lot, because that's the stage I'm in right now. But feeling really full and grateful today that all of you have arrived here and are in this virtual circle. Till today, you know, every visitor I've had we've had on this platform to today have all been really instrumental in the development of me as a woman. And not just about Grandmother's Voice. Grandmother's Voice is, you know, it's become this circle of and community of people who have, you know, that want to be with other people that are like-minded and want to make change and want to elevate Indigenous voices and embed Indigenous ways of knowing. And, and just understanding, what does that mean? What does Indigenous ways of knowing mean? And I'd just like to acknowledge Nabil for sharing, your beautiful words about, waking up to the beauty in the sky, and, what your connection was, your experience in connecting with the sky, and, the adornment, I guess, of, the stars make in that sky. And there's so many teachings. I don't know. I feel like, I know very, very little about to explain, I guess, the cultural teachings or understandings that, are ancient in our, the wisdom of Indigenous, ways, and that we're connected, and what really exists up there. And so, but what I do know is that when I hear people speak of it, I feel it in my spirit. I feel it inside my soul, my heart, my body gets this like excitement, like it's that rush that comes. And I'm so grateful that connecting to my culture has provided that for me. That's why I'm so passionate right now about doing what I'm doing. And I'm actually feeling really overwhelmed, probably because Chandra just put her camera on. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to share. And I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to make this about me today. But then she showed up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to. Chandra was one of the people, and I'll be introducing her. But as I'm acknowledging the people that are in this circle with us, we're all here in this moment for a reason. And for you, I'm so grateful sharing this space, because it's not always easy speaking your truth. And Tanya, thank you for sharing all of that beforehand, because it wakes us up to really being present for each other. Even virtually, we can do this, support each other in this space. And so I just want to just take this moment to acknowledge the beauty and the rain that's here today. And even though the sky is gray, we know that the sun, we know that every day we wake up, that energy is there for us to begin again. And all of these beautiful energies that, the Creator and Mother Earth provide for us. It's really where we are in this moment together that we can share that understanding that we all have purpose. Every single one of us have purpose. And it's times like today that, inspire me to keep doing this, because I hope that today, the words that we share, the energy that we share, the thoughts, the love, everything that we share, the experiences will carry, take you through this time, after this time, and help you share this, whatever we feel today, whatever you get from today, to share it in whatever way works for you. So I just want to acknowledge, just the waters today, because I think, with the rain and me feeling very emotional, I think that's what I have to do today, is just honor that water inside of me today, because there's Grandmother Renee says, if your tears are salty, you need to cry. I haven't tested them yet. But I know that when I feel like I need to cry, I can't hold it down. I have to cry. And so thank you for being here to support me in this time. And just again, acknowledging these beautiful energies that Mother Earth provides for us, the animals, all of the energies, the winds that were pretty actually strong a few minutes ago here where I am. And just knowing that it's time. I think we're in a really extraordinary time of awakening as a people to something greater than all of us. And that to me, is deeper understanding and wanting to know more than this material world. And the guests that I have with us today, I think will share some perspectives, some understandings that might, shift you in a way of I think making yourself a better person, because that's what she did to me and for me. And so just acknowledging that next week is a full moon. So make sure that you're preparing yourself and acknowledging some of the energy you might feel this weekend when you visit our fair, our Indigenous Artisan Fair. I hope you come. And that's Saturday and Sunday in Milton. But just acknowledging and being grateful and thankful for everything that we're provided for. So Nyawa, and again, thank you for all of you for coming. And I know that I'm just in this thought of this place of gratitude and making sure that I didn't miss anything in my thoughts and feelings. But maybe you might all want to just take a moment and acknowledge someone or something that that you need to send love to, that maybe you've ignored, and maybe you've just been pushing it down or pushing it aside. And just knowing that whatever shows up for you, whether it's challenging or happy, whatever the emotion, whatever it brings, it's there to help us become better people and stronger. And so I'd like to start with a video that when I was thinking of my sister, Chandra Miracle, that's here visiting with us today, I was thinking of, how do I introduce somebody who changed my life from a phone call. I called her because I met her. First, those of you who don't know me, I'm an urban Indigenous woman. I live in Oakville. My great grandmother was of the Cayuga Nation, 6 nations of the Grand River Territory. And when I found out that was my lineage, all of a sudden, it was like things started to come to me. They were thoughts. I was noticing things in my community, the Iroquois Ridge, Iroquois Shore, Grand Boulevard, all of these Indigenous areas in my community, and words and things. And I was a hairstylist at this time. And all of a sudden, people, as I started talking about my culture, people started talking about this woman that I'm going to introduce you today. They're like, I know this lady's at our school, and you should talk to her, and you should reach out to her. And finally I got the courage to reach out to her. And so when I was thinking about how will I bring her into the sacred space of community that we've created here, how do I honor her without making it about me? Because you can do that. We can do that when, we're in our space and healing. And so I'd like to, if Nabil, if you're ready, we're going to play something that I came across when I was thinking about how do I introduce Chandra to my friends. And so he's going to play this, and it's about 11 minutes long. But please, sit back and just, I guess, embrace her essence.
I'm going to play the video. If anybody can't hear, please let me know, but hopefully everything should be fine.
I admit I was scared. I didn't know much about babies. And even though she was consciously conceived, things don't always go as planned. Sure enough, about halfway into the pregnancy, we learned that my oldest daughter, Kira, had a congenital heart defect and would require immediate medical attention after birth. At 2 weeks old, she had her first open heart surgery. It didn't go well. They had to do it again. Sounds devastating, right? To be honest, I was okay. I had pillars for parents, and we were at one of the best children's hospitals on the planet, just up the road. Community care and support were endless. Tobacco was burned for us. A jingle dress dance was done in her honor. A benefit fundraiser was held for us at the Fort Erie Native Friendship Center. I don't remember hearing about postpartum anything. I didn't need it. I was fine. Community care, feeding people, sharing food. That's what I do. For 30 years, I've been feeding people and educating people about healthy food and nutrition, often with a special focus on feeding children. But it wasn't until after having 5 children of my own that I learned how important it is to feed moms. Sometime after Kira's 3rd open heart surgery, my son Aiden was born in hospital with unexplainable neurological issues. The prognosis was not good. After only 1 month, I couldn't even pump enough breast milk to feed him through a tube. I couldn't eat. Liquid meals in a can kept me going through the motions. Sounds devastating, right? It was. But again, family, community, our midwives, doctors, nurses, home support workers kept the care and support coming. As I held my 18-month-old son in my arms and watched him take his last breath, I thanked him for letting me be his mom. And I told him it was okay to go. It was his time, and it was okay. Rachel Garcia Saliga, founder of Innate Traditions Postpartum Care, tells us that an awareness of grief can sometimes surface for the first time in the initial postpartum period. It can feel so hard, she says, like something is missing. What's missing, she says, is community. And when we acknowledge the destruction of our communities, we acknowledge ancestral grief. Feeding people, community care, sharing food, these were once the norm in Lodinut Shuni, or Six Nations communities. In a traditional longhouse village, no one was hungry, no one was homeless. Women were in charge of food production and their bodies. Colonial and medicalized practices have caused destruction in our communities. But we can re-relate by remembering how to take care of each other again, the way we were biologically intended. Fast forward a few years, and my daughter Olivia was born in her great-grandmother's house. Friends and family came and shared food and celebrated with us our joy and our relief. Agwegonscana. We were all at peace. 5 years later, we did it again. Another baby girl, Francesca, Franny, born at home. I now had 3 kids, and I was away from my immediate family. My father and my grandmother had both died the year before. I had plenty of friends, but they were all moms with as many or more kids than I had. Another 5 years later, 7 years ago, at 42 years old, I gave birth at home to my daughter, Violet. I had planned and prepared everything. It was perfect. And then something happened. Nothing happened. I was physically broken, mentally exhausted, emotionally drained. How could no one see this? Why didn't I say anything? Because I'm Superwoman. Truth is, we're all superwomen, but at what expense? As moms, we're conditioned to think we need to do it all, be all things to all people all the time. Birth without fear like real women. Grow the corn, then cook it into soup. Learn an endangered language, then teach it to your kids. I don't know any moms who haven't experienced some level of postpartum depletion. Now, imagine if you've heard anything about postpartum anything, it's postpartum depression. This is a huge disservice. It makes us think that something is wrong with the mother. It takes her out of the whole family and community constellation. In my own words, in my own opinion, it should be called postpartum community care deficit disorder. See, from my own experiences, I think we can handle almost anything if we have enough love and support around us. Without it, even caring for a beautiful, precious, but screaming baby at 3 a.m. can be too much to bear. Even though all humans come to the world in the same way, we seem to have forgotten some basic knowledge about how to support this process. In order to ensure the vital repair of bodies, after the rigorous work of pregnancy, labor, and delivery, a few essential things should happen. First of all, moms must be allowed to rest, and moms must be allowed to rest so that her body can heal properly and naturally, particularly in the pelvic floor. Mom should be kept warm, especially in the core, so that her uterus can go back into place. Mom should be fed warm, nutrient-dense, easy to digest foods that she did not have to prepare herself. To restore her body and so that she could have enough energy to feed another human with her body. Moms are so amazing, aren't they? Perhaps the least understood aspect of postpartum care is the need for moms to have community support and social engagement. These are necessary so that mom has a sense of safety and security and to support her process of becoming a mother. In Ganyangeha, the Mohawk language, children can be referred to as the Dahadigun Sundunje, the new faces that are coming toward us from out of the ground. That ground is Yetini Sta Ohunja, our mother, the earth. As women, we are the embodiment of Mother Earth. Our bodies reflect the vulnerability of the planet. The health of women and the health of the environment need to improve. We know this. But this is where we can start, right at the beginning, right at the juncture where humanity and motherhood meet. Feeding and nourishing women who just brought new life to the planet. And by extension, their babies, their families, and their futures. Isn't about being nice, and it's not about giving or getting free food, and it's more than community care. It's preventive health care. Born as human beings, we were all once part of a postpartum experience. Every single one of us. As part of a human family and community now, how do you see yourself reflected in the postpartum mirror?
Stay off the screen, Chandra. because I'm going to read a little bit about her. I'm going to read a bit. I'm going to take a few minutes. I think maybe depends on how fast I read, but thank you for playing that, Nabil. And I hope you all, heard some of the words that she said and she used in the language when she delivered that content. It was beautiful, actually. So Chandra F. Miracle is originally from Buffalo's West Side and is a mother of 4 daughters. She studied at Sunny Cortland College, University at Buffalo, New York, and University of Salamanca, Spain. She's worked as a youth leader at Native American Community Services in Buffalo, graduate assistant in Native American Studies at University of Buffalo, and cultural resource specialist at the Native American Magnet School, number 19. She was a diversity educator with the National Conference for Community and Justice, co-founder of Indigenous Women's Initiatives, and has certifications in eating psychology, massage, Reiki, yoga, and innate traditions postpartum care. Chandra is co-founder of Everlasting Tree School at Six Nations and initiated the school's nutrition program. On the Healthy Roots Committee, she was also a collaborator on the Healthy Roots Committee at Six Nations and developed the Haudenosaunee Food Guide for the Community Challenge. Chandra is founder of Real People Eat Real Food, exploring links between links between people, food, mothering, homemaking, art, language, education, technology, and the land. She's a graduate of the Adult Mohawk Language Immersion Program and is currently a PhD student at York University in the Faculty of Environmental and Urban Change. Chandra is a collaborator on the Earth to Tables Legacy Project, a group of intergenerational and intercultural folks transforming the food system. Chandra was a recipient of the 1997 Native American Women's Recognition Award from the Friends of Ganondagan. Chandra has recently co-founded Hiwi, Haudenosaunee and Waldorf Inspired. HAWI, acronym there. She has shown artwork at the Woodland Cultural Center First Nations Art Show, done a collaborative art installation and presentation at the X Space Gallery in Toronto entitled Reimagining Colonial Relationships Through Artistic Process, and led a workshop at the Six Nations Birthing Center, Expressing Yourself in Pregnancy Through Artistic Body Casting. In 2021, Chandra was recognized as a change maker and showed work for an exhibit at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. In early 2022, her work appeared in the show, Indigenous Motherhood and Matriarchy at the Arts Commons in Alberta. I read that because, well, probably not very well. I left out a lot of language words that when I got to them, I felt something in my body. It was like I really wanted to attempt it, but it was just this knowing that I need to sit with it. And when I heard Chandra speaking in her TED Talks and just so beautifully articulating the language, the Mohawk language, it just brought me so much joy. And so with this, she did all this. 5 children. She's remarkable. And I continue to find myself in these spaces of really beautiful, strong women who are rebuilding and reclaiming Indigenous, language and embedding it back into our communities and in our language. And I'm just so honored, Chandra, that I'm in your circle, that we're in this circle together, and that you're here today with me. And just a really nice space to share your knowledge and tell people like we're neighbors, you live here, you're doing all this for us, for the faces that are coming out of the ground. I love you, for being here.
Nyawa, Tiwa Agwasanay, that name will go on de Jody. Gono Lunkwa Uni. Wegwe, what Panorado, they were Guego. Gehre Agirlo, Docalani go on again, they can word of Serla. Day one, Verlado, since they were not since they were Guego. So I said, I just wanted to share some words of greetings, love, thankfulness, and respect to each and every one of you. And certainly you, Jody. Thank you for this honor of inviting me to be here in this space with you today. All those things you said about me can absolutely be said about you as well. So, Mise Oni.
Yeah. This, I haven't really set anything up. I want this to be.
I have one order of business.
Yes.
Because this is how life goes, right? The guy to fix the dishwasher is here 2 hours early.
Oh.
So just in case you hear some background noise or, I got to go talk to him for a second, I just need to let you know because that's how life goes,
Well, and that's actually what I was just about to say. So I really hope that there, we're not expecting, a Q&A or like for me saying, hey, tell us what you're doing right now. I didn't have a plan for this. I thought I did. And, as I prepared, because I really did, prepare more than I would normally, because, I just felt like, I don't want to disappoint ever when I come into this space. I want people to be moved, right? Because this is all about the reconciliation, the understanding. And a lot of people that are, that have been coming to these conversations are, they want to understand and they want to do something. They want to be something more, they're not just coming, they're coming. Maybe some are coming for their responsibility to their job, but I don't really feel it's that. I think it's more than that. And so everything that I read here, I read it over and over and I'm like, whoa, the stuff that you do is, how do you do it? Do you pick it and say, I know I'm doing this today? Or, like, how do you tell us your journey? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I turned 50 a couple months ago. So it sounds like a lot of stuff when you read it, one after the other on a piece of paper, but that's like 30 some years in the making, all that stuff. So I don't do all of it now, but all of it I would say is a culmination of what I do now. Every single one of those things has contributed to who I am and what I'm doing, at any given moment. But certainly right now, the TED Talk really was that for me. It was a culmination of my whole journey from life, but certainly my adult life, starting at about 18, I guess, which is probably where that bio, would have started that you read. So I think when you put it all together and see it in 12 minutes, it has a different impact than if we, if you had been just following me for the last 30 years or so. It was interesting for me to watch it. I've seen it a couple of times since then. That was done back in May. And even for me, just to watch myself, I know most people don't like to see themselves probably, on a screen. But I feel really good about it, but I feel better about it now. Because, 6 months ago, even compared to now, I think for everyone, so much has changed, so much keeps changing. And that came at a time when I was asked to do that, I hemmed and hawed about it. I said no at first. And then to answer specifically your question about, how do I do this and the journey, like it just, most of that stuff found me. Some of that stuff, I don't even know how I ended up there. Like I was just like pulled along by some, invisible energetic string to put me in some of those places. And that talk was one of those things that came out of nowhere. A friend recommended me, nominated me. They asked me, I said, I don't know, what would I talk about? So I just told the guy a few things I was working on. He said, any of that, all of that, you know, and it coincided with some stuff that I was working on for the PhD. And I have to say that that was the first time that I've ever, I think, publicly talked about some of that stuff. And I mean, go big or go home, right? That's kind of how I do. So all of a sudden I'm talking about stuff I never talked about. And then it was just like, let me just put it all out there. You know, every fiber of my being, you know, really went into that, like went into the life of that, and then the actual talk itself. And I will tell you, I will admit, a lot of people ask, oh, you know, that must have been easy for you. You know, I do a lot of public speaking. I give a lot of presentations. And I said, you know what? I could sit here and let you think that that was easy. I could do that, but I won't, because it was excruciating. You know, that just the journey, all of it, the whole journey, but just those, what ended up being in that, you know, 11 or 12 minutes, the preparation for that was quite expensive. And it was very much a healing journey. And it was a journey of healing that I didn't know I needed at that time, 6 months ago, or, you know, 8, 9 months ago, when it's I guess I didn't really realize how much we were all right in the middle of COVID, right? Like the 5th shutdown or whatever it was at that particular time. So when I watch myself on that video, even compared to now, I think, oh God, I look horrible. You know, just so tired. And like, I feel for myself when I watched that video, but I mean, I'm happy with it. I'm proud of it, but just like knowing just what we all carry. I think that's one of the main messages really of that doesn't explicitly come through, that I don't say, is that we're all these people walking around with all these stories that you don't even know. All your coworkers, your colleagues, you know them on a certain level. And people, not just women, but, you know, mostly women, carry all this other stuff around with them all the time. You know, you might be at your computer doing whatever your job is all day long, and there's all this other stuff going on, you know, in that day that doesn't get talked about.
Yeah. And even as you were saying that, you know, that's what I saw it as too. I mean, I know you, but I know that piece now of when people have that opportunity to share, even just through my own doing this. This is healing every day, which is why, and I think it's a belief system too, you know, of maybe from Indigenous ways, or just even being able to share your story is a healing. And we're in that time right now. Social media, everything is just this perfect timing for us right now to start to support people in those spaces. TED Talks, social media, you know, and I hear, because I'm, you know, I know that one of my like gifts in this lifetime is that I work with really amazing people, you know, like yourself, you know, the elders, the grandmas. You know, when I committed to this, and I remember this, Chandra, when I first met you, and, you know, maybe it was 1 or 2 of the conversations I had with you, and I was like, man, like, this is going to change me. Knowing what I know, what I'm being told right now, if I decide to go this way, my life is going to change. I have to commit to understanding how that I'm going to be healing myself. I'm going to be healing myself. And when I heal myself, then people are going to want to know. People are going to start to come, and, you know, they want to know, they see this shift in people that are right. And it's like, that's the attraction of people. And so I know this right now from the work that I'm doing with elders, talking about healing. And when we come together and we do those circles, and we take that time and we go through introductions and we go one at a time. Sometimes we don't even get past that introduction and then the time is over, right? And people are
Right.
like, well, what happened? We didn't do anything. And then you leave.
Yeah.
And then a week later, something that somebody said in that circle moves you.
Mhm.
I have to cough. Can you talk about something?
Yes. Yeah, that's what you needed. You know, that reminds me, so in the Haudenosaunee culture, of course, we have this protocol, this Ohana Galih Wadakwa, Ganun for Ladun Saraf, these opening words, sometimes called the Thanksgiving address. And I was doing a workshop one time with some teachers and was talking to one of them. And we were talking about how significant that is, that even still, in all Haudenosaunee communities, that these words are spoken every day, whether it's a ceremonial event, a social event, a political event. And it can take up to 45 minutes for someone to open a meeting with these words in the language, this greeting of love and respect and thankfulness to all of the elements in the natural world. And like 20 of them are named specifically. And I've been in meetings where, you do a 5-minute version, you do a 45-minute version. And then I share with people that this is still done all the time. And imagine if your meeting started this way. And so this teacher said, I said, it brings people together of one mind. And, that's really significant so that you can get on to the business then of the day. And she said, well, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe that other stuff brings you together so you can do those opening words. So that's what it reminded me of when you said that, is because, what's more important, your business of your meeting or the expression of gratitude to everything that allows us to be human beings on the earth? So
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite, existing, recurring Haudenosaunee protocols. That still happens all the time. Another thing in watching that video, and I'm watching myself, which is it also just reminds me that there's so many layers to us as people, that we often also don't know about each other and acknowledge for each other, but it is definitely one of those universals. After the talk, at the reception afterwards, there were so many people that, came up to me they just wanted to comment, because they felt it. They felt themselves in there. And of course, there were a lot of women, but I was so happy that there were so many men that came up to me at that reception, and then the one the following week. And a lot of them were young men. And they said things like, my sister just had a baby, and it got them thinking about all this stuff. Or this one young man said, I went home and I called my mom in India right away. And it just, all the things that it made these young men think about as well, whether it was their sisters, their mothers, their wives, whoever. And so it's really kind of a universal theme there. But again, if you remember that was a 30-year-long journey for me to get to that point. A lot of folks in the last several years have known me as kind of a, the food sovereignty person, or, whatever it is. And I've never used that term for myself. I don't really speak in terms of food sovereignty, but I've just been doing food work for a long time on many different levels. Traditional Haudenosaunee foods, just doing community work, eating psychology, founding our nutrition program at a school I co-founded. So yeah, I've been doing food work for a long time, but what the postpartum work really brought to me was, well, several things, of course, but thinking about nourishing people when they're vulnerable, first of all, but also just taking care of people. You know, that food and offering food to people is an act of love. You know, nourishing people as conscious care, conscious caregiving really is what food is for me. And that coincides with some of the work that I do around early childhood education, particularly in Waldorf schools. So it made sense to me that we focus a lot on children, of course, on babies, as we should, but we don't often remember that there's another side. Like a baby actually doesn't really exist on its own. You know, a baby is a two-ness. It's not a one, you know, for that first while anyway. And it's like they sometimes call it a dyad, the mother baby. It's just a oneness. So the other day I was at a birthday party with my youngest daughter, and there was a fellow mom there, and I said, did you have a baby recently? You know, and she said, yeah, he's about 1.5 years. And I said, okay. I said, so how are you? She said, how are you doing? How are you doing? And she just kind of stopped and looked at me. I said, how's your body? And like her whole demeanor changed. You know, just in a moment to be acknowledged, you know, to be seen as a person. And, oh, how's the baby? You know, how are you? I said, I'm sure your baby's fine, or I'd know about it, you know. Of course, you know, we care about the baby, but it was just so telling. And that was her third child as well. And she just said, yeah, nobody ever asks, you know, how I'm doing. So I think if there's, you know, if nothing else, it's just a really good reminder for everyone. And I didn't name the talk got named afterwards, something about, you know, renaming postpartum depression or something. That's not what the talk was really about for me. You could have named that talk 10 different things, you know, and addressed so many different things. That's what they settled on. That's fine. But really, I think it's such a universal that I really was hoping that anybody would see themselves somewhere in there, somewhere in that journey when reflecting on their own lives. And even if nothing else, just reminding themselves that at some point they were a baby, you know, and they were in that time period.
I'm sitting here thinking of all of the words because I wrote stuff down on all my papers.
So
You know,
give me 1 sec. Give me one
Yeah,
second.
yeah. Oh, she's going. Okay, so I'll talk. It's okay. You can listen. But when I was listening to Chandra's TED Talk, what was resonating with me and really jumping out was the language that she used. And this is what I'm learning from being with elders and grandmas, and is that the choice of words is what moves people. And, you know, coming from someone who, like, you know, my upbringing, I was, you know, I love to swear. I think it was an easy way for me to express my feelings, and knowing that or understanding or being shared with, you know, thoughts of, okay, if you're sharing specific words, people are hearing them, and they people respond to them in a way that, you know, they're being shared in the context. And so this was an awareness piece for me when I was listening and watching Chandra's talk, and she was saying words that just, like, I could feel my body do something when I heard her say community care, community constellation. You know, no one was hungry. You know, preventative health care. There was just how she described the new faces coming from the earth, you know, how she compared, you know, our women's bodies embodying Mother Earth, that our bodies reflected Mother Earth. This is the gratitude. This just ignites my gratitude for the way Indigenous people are to be thought of. This was, when we talk about reconciliation, this is what resonates with me when I say these people, this was taken from them. This beauty of how they described things. It wasn't just a word, it was the essence. They were describing the essence and action of what that, word meant, or what that thing is, or this experience. And so I don't know if you guys feel this way. I'm just so grateful in this time that we have this opportunity to share the knowledge and what Indigenous people, the elders, will say, because the Indigenous people who are out there bringing light to our world through this reconciliation portal are the ones that are speaking like this. They want the healing, they want the understanding. It's not the surface work, the check boxes, the get this done. And I like to acknowledge, if I could yell at the on the rooftops in Oakville, how grateful I am for Oakville, the town of Oakville, to always create this space for me to share. I'm so grateful, because we're in this time, and these circles of care and understanding are just, they'll exist forever on the town of Oakville's portal, right? First. But welcome back, Chandra. You can jump in at any time. Because I don't even know what I just said, really. I'm just like, okay. Hey.
I'll probably have to jump off again for a second.
That's okay. No, I think there is a comment here, but go ahead if something came to you while I was talking.
Yeah, is there a question from somebody?
No, I think right here it just
Okay.
says thank you. Thank you so much for your beautiful messages. They were truly impactful and moving. And I think that's what I was just saying when you jumped off, was that, for a long time in my own life, and just living in this urban world, like many people, just figuring out, I feel like we've all been in this place of survival. We're just like, let's just go. Blah, blah, blah. We know that the systems of oppression were created to whatever it is, to create this world that we live in. But we're waking up. We don't have to live that way, right? We don't have to live in the way that the government or the people that came, the visitors that came and created the system. We don't have to live in that box, we'll say, and in that space. And I like to say, I think today when I was getting ready for the day, I like to just be like, okay, so what am I feeling today about what I did yesterday and where I am today in my life? And there's systems that exist to keep us, I think, efficient, maybe to teach people. But it's the people within these systems and within these town of Oakville and this, whatever we're doing, wherever you're coming from today, it's you that actually get to create your life. It's you that get to take this knowledge that you're learning today, if you do pick anything up, and move it into your regular everyday life or into your workspace. And so, when I listen to so many, organizations and people wanting to do reconciliation, and we're learning and we're going and we're doing online training and we're doing all this other stuff, but really, what are you doing when you understand the truths? How are you changing your own life from those truths that are being shared right now? And so I'm grateful that that's what I think our collective has become. The speakers that we've brought on here are people that offer knowledge that you can apply into your life. And that, from what I'm understanding, is what Indigenous people really want people to know. This is an essence of us. We reached everything, Tanya, that you started at the beginning with that little PowerPoint spread. That to me, I was listening and watching you talk about it. That's Indigenous. That's grace, right? And acknowledging that grace and love begins right when that child comes into this world. That's what I thought when I saw, when I listened to Chandra's talks, was wow, that is, if we can get people to really start at that beginning place, with that love and understanding and protection. And, I think that it's it's just a beautiful thing to think about. Thanks, Kara. She has a nice message. I have my first grandchild coming in 2023, and Chandra has reminded me that we need to not only focus on the new baby, but on the physical and mental health for mother, our future daughter-in-law. She deserves our attention, empathy. Yes, amazing, and that she'll appreciate that so much. I know I did when my mother-in-law was here, and she took care of me because I lived away from home, and that's so important. So thank you for sharing that, and congratulations. Blessings to the baby coming, and for a safe arrival, and for your family. Well, Chandra's stepped out to take care of her dishwasher, because we all know how important that is. My parents still don't have a dishwasher at their house. So I don't know if Tanya or Nabil, or does anybody out there have anything to ask? And if not, I told Chandra that I wasn't going to mention this, but I'm going to anyway, because she's not here. And so her husband actually has been, he's been around a while doing this work, but in the Halton region specifically, for those of you, I don't know if any of you have visited any of the walks, the medicine walks or moccasin trails in Bronte Creek. And I think, what's the other park there in Oakville? I can't
Lions
think of it.
Valley.
Lions Valley. Yep. Chandra's husband was who created those posters for the walks, Rick Hill.
Oh my
And so Rick Hill's, he's married to Chandra.
goodness.
And so I said, I'm not going to talk about that, but to fill in this space and time, I'm going to. And I found out, that he created though, and they're all based off of the Thanksgiving address, as far as I know. So when you're walking through that and they're acknowledging, you'll notice now, maybe you'll be able to put that together, that was where that came from.
And Jody, I want to add that the drawings on their panels are Rick's.
Yes.
Beautiful pencil crayon drawings, and they're so lovely. Like I love them, but I love art, right? So it was something that he added to the project that we weren't expecting, and it's really personable. It's really so yes, if you haven't taken a walk in Bronte along Bronte Creek, or in Lions Valley along the 16 mile, please do. There are 13 plaques, and you can read them. Sometimes we have guided tours, but you can do it with your friends. You can do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
They're really lovely.
Mm-hmm. It is really.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because when I met Chandra, I'll just tell a little bit, go back to that story. I said I was a hairstylist, they call it. Anyway, I'd made this connection to Six Nations. And I knew at this point that Renee was my cousin. I'd already done my genealogy and found her at this genealogy circle. And that's when we realized that our great grandmas were sisters. And so I continued my journey, because, when I met her, I was like, oh my gosh, what next? My cousin is this, and I want to meet my family. And she invited me to do a family barbecue, and got to meet cousins. But when I said to her, so what next? And she said, well, you're doing fine, continue to connect to spirit and to yourself. And so I did. And I tried to stay connected to Six Nations. And I started to do, I was just going to talk about, Chandra, that program that I did for Indigenous women at the Great Center there. And it was so funny, because I didn't know who, and I'm sorry, I did mention Rick when you walked away. I was like, Kevin, throw it in there, because not sorry, but I just joked and said, no, we're just going to talk about you. But I did mention to the guests that he did the the walks here in the park, in the parks here, right? Where you did those posters. But
Right.
when I met, yeah, and it's funny. So, and I already met Chandra, and so she was so kind. I was like, I remember calling her one night saying, "Hey, I'm just at the Great Center, and can I come for a quick visit after?" And I was so excited because they had created this experience where you could Indigenous women, and it was like coming home, right? So they were teaching the Indigenous women your responsibilities and understandings as an Indigenous woman. And so I was so lucky that I found this workshop. It was like 8 weeks long or something. And this one night I came in and I actually brought this because they had created this space where you could come in and it was talking. They were telling stories, different elders telling stories, and you got to create whatever it was you wanted in that moment. And it was, so you could write or you could paint or you could, do whatever it is that you wanted to. And so I was so grateful because after that one night you said, yeah, sure. And I came running in with my painting. Remember, it was soaking wet. And I was like, oh my God, I still have it.
Yes. Aw.
And I painted this for like a couple of hours and it was so funny while I was listening. And after I was done, I was all proud. And they're like, oh, well, we were thinking that would be over the 8-week period, you're creating. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it now. I'm getting this done. But I showed it to her. And then your husband walked in and he just was like, hi, said something to me about my painting. And then, we left the room and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I didn't know who he was until after that. I was like, oh, nice. But anyway, so that's just a little sidebar story, but really, it was really
great
beautiful.
because art, really is also a big part of our lives. And my husband and I, certainly he's been involved in the art world for 100 years. And I think that is another part of my journey, things that I've been doing since we got together, since Rick and I got together, and we both kind of started doing artwork again. And a lot of what I'm doing right now, even as part of my PhD work, is using these body casts that I've done of myself. And I forgot that some of them were in the TED Talk, so you probably saw a couple of them, and I could probably figure out how to pull them up if you wanted to see them.
That's what I remember. Yeah, you had them on display a couple times when
and when I've done more since then. And so my theme there really is that, going back to what I said in there about, women, our bodies, we're just the manifestation of the earth, and that can sound all, sacred and frilly, but it's really just kind of matter of fact. Our bodies mirror, reflect what's happening in the environment, reflect what's happening with the earth, and certainly in Ganyak Geha and the language, you don't really hear anybody just say earth. Like, it's always Yetini Stao Honja. It's she to us is our mother, the earth. Like, it's just right in there in the language. So the idea is just really getting everybody to think about a woman's body as a backdrop for just about any social issue. And I happen to like the visual of a pregnant woman's body. So you saw, at least two or three of them that in the talk. And so for me, I used some of the body casts that we did through the three pregnancies together, Rick and I, as just this way of superimposing, our issues and our thinking, onto this canvas, like woman's body as canvas. And so if you think of pretty much anything that you ever talk about, but if that's in the back of your mind, that's what it's happening to, that's what it's happening on, that's why it's happening, how it's happening, is because of a woman's body, and particularly the visual of a pregnant woman's body. And again, in that is a universal. That's every single human being can and should do that, or see it that way. And I have to believe that things might be just a little bit different if that were in everyone's mind.
Oh, I definitely think that I think this world would be a different place if we all had that thought in our mind.
Yeah. So it's centering it's looking at a woman-centered community. And certainly Haudenosaunee communities were that. And it's not about, domination. There's always these words like matriarchy. Well, I don't know. That's an English word that doesn't really get at what it really is. It's nothing to do with like, who's the boss. It's a community in balance. But in a community in balance, you can have something at the center. And so a woman-centered, woman-focused community also then would focus on babies and children, which really just focuses on humans, which includes everyone. So really, that's just the way, that's the model. And so my current way that's been my thought process for all of these 30 some years, that you make choices for yourself in your adult life. Has always been my thought process. But just the most recent manifestation of all of that is looking at postpartum community care as a model for cultural revitalization. It's a strategy. And
I love that.
maybe just human revitalization.
Totally. I think we're in that time. I love that, human revitalization. I think we're there. People we need something.
Yeah.
People are like, we've tried it all. We've tried it all. Right. And there's just so much happening in the world right now. Right. There's just so much happening. There's a lot, even right now, as I just started to talk about this, it's like this big, huge gust of wind just came and moved my trees in the front. That's what I feel right now. And I think if we can emerge with a really beautiful, did you guys freeze or am I frozen?
I think Chandra.
Oh, Chandra. Okay. So,
yeah.
Okay. But I don't know what I was going to say.
Is there a question?
Is there a question?
No, I know. I think Chandra, you were just frozen for a little bit.
Frozen for a sec, yeah.
Frozen for a second. But I I really want to thank you, Chandra, for such an insightful, reflective talk, and Jody for moderating from a perspective of a man, somebody who identifies as such. I have to tell you that the perspective that I was just listening to as you were sharing was things that I would otherwise not take into so much consideration as what you were sharing. So it's a beautiful perspective, and it's one that definitely warrants a voice, and I'm happy that this space was one in which that voice could be amplified. So I just wanted to thank you, Chandra, for that wonderful TED Talk, but also just your insights into how that came to be. Right? The process of speaking doesn't just necessarily come from that TED Talk, it comes from years of experience and the courage that it takes to even be in that stage to share those personal stories. I thought that was really powerful. So thank you for that. Jody, if I may, if that's okay, if I can just ask for you to share a little bit about our December 14th event. If anybody here is interested in attending, which I hope they will be, do you want to just give us a little bit of a snippet of what to expect?
It's going to be really little because we're just going to get together with these survivors. We've built a great relationship with Robbie Hill, Don Hill, survivors, John Elliott. There's Charlene Bomberry. There's several, like a circle of Indigenous survivors from Mohawk Village Memorial Park. That's their movement, I call it. They've been working on this park for, I think for 10 years, maybe longer, since they started to do the TRC, and they see this vision of surrounding that, the Woodland Cultural Center as a park for them. Right. And so when I learned this about 5 years ago, they came to that's when I first met you, Nabil, I think in 2018 now, I think it is, when we started to talk about that. And you guys helped us out with our first Indigenous, National Indigenous Peoples Day. And they came out, and that was when they shared with us what they're doing. And it's just, timing. They've been working hard at this. And so they're going to come on that day, sit with us, a group of them, possibly the grandmas. We're going to see who's in the community. We invite all community to come and hear them, hear their stories. We'll begin at the, I think you'll share this information anyway, right, Nabil, through the invitation, but we'd like to start at the coach house or the museum, and then just walk. I think it's about 3 blocks to the orange crosswalk, and just spend some time with them. Like you said, we've called it a walk to remember with the survivors, and remember the children, remember even just reconnect, just connect with each other, because we haven't done this in person before. It's always been virtual. And so we just thought, let's take this opportunity. I'm actually spending the week or a few days with them anyway in Thunder Bay. We leave Monday, so that's why we're not having our show next week. Is myself and about 10 others will be in Thunder Bay with an Indigenous community event up there. We'll be sitting with survivors for 3 days, doing healing and just talking about connection and how we support each other moving forward. And I think, Trandra, you shared some really important words that I'm going to start to infuse into my language, and even with grandmother's voices, just this community of care, and, just making sure that we start to surround each other with this love and understanding, and start to bring those messages of, the women and how important we are in communities, and not just in communities, but obviously in our new babies too.
Mhm.
Are you having any more babies?
Good Lord.
I know, you can't even say no, right? You're like, I don't know.
No, I do know. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I guess we never know. I remember, I think after maybe Olivia, so technically should have been my third, and someone told me, oh, you're gonna have a couple more. It's like, no, done, and then within several more years I had 2 more, and kind of forgot that somebody had made that suggestion, but because they're so spread out. But yeah, I guess you never know, but it's certainly not in the plans. I would like to just highlight a couple of things real quick, invite you and encourage you to check out a couple of things. So one of the things you mentioned and that I'm involved in is this fabulous group of people, the Legacies Project. You can go to earthtotableslegacies.org, maybe earthtotables.org. Either way, it's this interactive, intercultural, meant for educators, but really for anybody. You can go on this interactive website, and there are many facilitators, guides, things for educators. There's videos and photo essays from folks all over, Six Nations, Toronto, Oaxaca, Gaspé, Muskokas, 4 regions in Mexico. Just a bunch of people doing really good work in many aspects of food and life. So please check that out. There will also be a facilitator's guide, like an actual hard copy, coming out very soon. Was just delayed because of COVID. And as well, you can check out wearehowie.com. And that is my good friend and colleague, Stacy Hill, and I, who are doing this, offering this work, Haudenosaunee and Waldorf inspired, which is, generally for Haudenosaunee educators looking at a Waldorf inspired model, and also Waldorf educators, looking at Haudenosaunee inclusion work. So this is kind of another culmination of some work that we've been a part of now for 15 years or so. So please check out both of those, and can always reach me through there.
And so this is referring to your Everlasting Tree School, right? And on Six Nations too. Is that what or is this something you've developed outside of that?
Yeah, I'm no longer there. So this is something that we've, after our years of doing work within Waldorf community and seeing the need for other Haudenosaunee educators about some of the work we've done there, but also the need for Waldorf educators, and really just any educators, about Haudenosaunee inclusion work. So that's who we are at We Are Howie.
That's awesome. All
Mhm.
right.
Thank you.
You're
So,
so fabulous.
ah, you're fabulous.
Go on, go
Having
on.
me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to dig on the Jody. I really want to acknowledge you as well for all these folks, for all the work that you've been doing since I met you, to
Mm,
reconnect, and just all this work you're putting out there in the world, and this community and in the Oakville community, I think is really valuable. It's like bloom where you're planted kind of thing. Like, yeah, you can go back to 6 stations and do things, but everybody is a person from a place somewhere, and you need to do the work wherever you are. So it's not about thinking that some place that exists, if I just go there and get the knowledge, or if I just go somewhere else and get something, that's fine. That we can all travel all over the world and get all kinds of things, but wherever you're at, that's where you need to be and be doing the work. So that's what you're doing. I really admire that. So thank you for your work.
oh, Noah. I might use that bloom where you're planted. I'll put your name behind it. Don't worry.
No, it wasn't me. I don't know where I got it. So don't, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Uh,
Thank you again so much.
Thank you, guys. And so this is the conclusion of our virtual program. Big thank you to Chandra for your wonderful insights and experiences and sharings. Thank you too much to Grandmother's Voice and Jody, Tanya, our virtual platform, and the ability to connect with everybody virtually online. And really, I know some of us are not necessarily within the proximity to GTA or to Oakville, but if you're able to make it, December 14th, I would love to see you guys in person, and to be able to connect and like you said, a walk to remember with the survivors. I think the impact of those in-person conversations, the ability to walk to the crosswalk and truly honor the crosswalk, right? The crosswalk is not just something that's painted orange on a sidewalk. It holds meaning. In order to hold meaning, we need to reflect on that and need to be intentional about it. So yeah, if you can make it, I'm going to send an email with all this information and a sign-up list, and I really hope you guys can come up. And there's going to be some refreshment, right? So at least you get to have some coffee with us, if anything. So really hoping to see everybody there, and thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you hopefully all on December the 14th. Take care.
Bye. Thank you, Chandra.
Everyone.
Bye.
Okay. On Nagi Wahi.
Sandra.